You lie next to your wife at night, but it doesn't feel like she's there. She's cold, distant, and sex has turned into a chore she'd rather avoid than enjoy. You could just as well be lying next to a corpse for how little passion remains between you. And you can't help but feel confused, hurt, desperate to understand. Where did the woman go, the one who used to want you, touch you, crave you? Why has she become this withdrawn, almost lifeless figure who recoils from your hand? You've already checked all the obvious explanations. There's no other man. You've gone through her phone, noticed her habits, maybe even thought about hiring someone to follow her. Nothing. No signs of betrayal. She simply doesn't want you anymore. And what makes it harder to accept is that she doesn't even want to divorce you. She's content to live in this sexless limbo, a roommate with your name on the mortgage, a co-parent for the kids, but not your lover. That part of your bond is long dead, and you can't make sense of why. Let me tell you the truth. What's happening isn't random, and it's not an accident. It's the slow, almost invisible death of desire, a psychological process you may have been contributing to without even knowing it. Because for women, sexuality doesn't begin in the body, it begins in the mind. Desire is born in psychology, not anatomy. And when it dies there, bringing it back is like trying to resurrect a corpse. It's not impossible, but it requires understanding what killed it in the first place. So let's cut through the noise and rule out what it's not. It's not another man. You've already proven that. It's not a medical issue either, assuming she's been checked and cleared. No hormonal imbalance, no physical pain, no hidden condition that explains why intimacy has vanished. Once the external and physical are ruled out, the only place left to look is the psychological. And that's where the real answers live. In her perception of you, in what you represent to her now compared to what you once represented, the first and most powerful killer of female desire, failing to live up to expectations. I know, it sounds unfair. How can you be blamed for falling short of standards you never even knew existed? But here's the harsh truth. Women often fall in love not with who you are, but with the idea of you, the fantasy of who they believe you could become. At the beginning, she didn't fall for the real you. She fell for potential, for possibility, for the dream her mind projected onto you. And as time wore on, reality chipped away at that dream, until all she saw was the ordinary man standing in front of her. She once believed you were the man in her fantasy, the man she imagined you would become, the life you would build together, the things you would achieve. Her desire, her energy, her excitement were all directed at that imagined version of you. And in the beginning, maybe you matched it. With the thrill of novelty, the rush of new love, you seemed like that man. But reality has a cruel way of stripping illusions bare. Year after year, the real you emerged, and the real you is just a normal man. Not the hero, not the prince, not the legend she wrote in her head, just you. And here's the part she will never admit, maybe not even to herself. She feels deceived. Not by you directly, but by her own imagination. Yet her mind won't let her blame herself, so she blames you. You tricked her into a life that doesn't match what she dreamed of. You're not the success story she hoped for. You're not the man who delivers the lifestyle she secretly compared to her friends' husbands online. And in her psychology, how can she feel desire for the man who represents the death of her dream? Think of it from her perspective for a moment. She had a whole movie playing in her head. In that script, you were going to win battles you didn't even know existed. Climb ladders you didn't even know she wanted you to climb. You were supposed to transform into a man she never clearly told you about, but fully expected. And every day you stayed yourself instead of becoming her fantasy. Her resentment deepened, her disappointment grew, and her desire withered. Now she scrolls through social media, comparing her life to snapshots of others. She sees vacations, promotions, houses, husbands who look like they're winning. She measures you against them, and in her eyes you don't measure up. You might be loyal, faithful, present, but none of that matters when you're not the man she wrote into her private fantasy years ago. And sexual attraction cannot survive under the weight of that kind of disillusionment. The second killer of desire, broken trust. But not the kind of trust you're thinking about, not cheating, not betrayal in the obvious sense. I'm talking about emotional trust. The trust that allows her to open up, to be vulnerable, to let go during intimacy. That trust doesn't shatter in one big blow, it dies in 1,000 tiny cuts. And you probably didn't even realize you were holding the knife. Remember the time she told you about a silly hobby she loved and you laughed at it? Or when she introduced you to her friends and you made it clear you thought they were beneath you? Or the time she shared a dream, an ambition, or even a fear, and you dismissed? It minimized it, made her feel stupid for saying it out loud. Each one of those moments was another brick in the wall between you. She showed you who she really was, and instead of embracing it, you brushed it off. Not cruelly, not dramatically, but in small, almost invisible ways that told her she wasn't safe being herself with you. That's what emotional trust is. The sense that she can reveal her true self without being judged, laughed at, or rejected. And each little dismissal killed that trust. She wanted to be silly, vulnerable, imperfect, and instead she learned to hide, to suppress, to act like the version of herself you seemed to want, rather than who she really was. And once she starts performing in life, she cannot let go in the bedroom either. How can she surrender sexually when she doesn't feel safe personally? This is why her desire disappears, not because she doesn't care about you, but because intimacy requires trust, and trust was eaten away over the years in those 1,000 tiny moments. You didn't notice, but she did. And now sex isn't just about her body, it's about her ability to feel secure in your presence. Without that, desire suffocates. And then comes the third killer, resentment. Women are collectors of grievances. They gather every slight, every disappointment, every forgotten birthday or careless comment, and they store it like a private museum of reasons not to desire you. Some of those resentments are real wounds you caused. Others are imagined slights you never intended. But in her memory, they're all equally real. And they stack up until the wall of resentment is so high, no sexual energy can climb over it. Here's the cruel part. You probably don't even know most of them exist. She never told you. She just kept collecting. That one time you looked at another woman for a second too long. That day you chose your friends over her. That sarcastic remark you made about her family. All stored away. All feeding the quiet fire of resentment. And a woman who has turned herself into the suffering wife, the quiet martyr, the victim of your flaws. She cannot desire you. Victims don't long for their oppressors. They tolerate them. Resentment becomes her identity. She bonds with other women over it, sharing stories about disappointing husbands, competing for who has it worse, and finding validation in each other's dissatisfaction. Her friends reinforce the story she tells herself, that she deserves better, that she's settled, that she is too good for you. And with every layer of validation, her resentment hardens, and her desire for you drifts even further away. Each conversation with her mother, her sisters, her friends adds another brick to the wall. In her mind, she's not the one who made the wrong choice. You are the reason she's unhappy. And then comes the fourth killer of desire, one almost no one talks about, sexual deception that slowly transforms into sexual death. It happens in nearly every relationship. At the beginning, neither of you were really being honest in bed. You were performing, trying to be the perfect lover, while she was performing, trying to be the insatiable partner who loved everything. You thought you'd found the formula for her pleasure, but in reality you were building a pattern that pushed her further and further away. Maybe she pretended to enjoy things she secretly hated, moaning louder when she wanted to stop, giving you positive feedback on the very things that turned her off. And you, thinking you had unlocked her deepest desires, doubled down. You repeated the same actions again and again, refining a technique that was never truly working. Over time, she trained you to do the exact opposite of what she wanted, all because she was too afraid or too conditioned to tell you the truth. Years go by. Every sexual encounter becomes something she endures rather than enjoys. Her body starts to reject intimacy altogether. She tenses when you touch her, invents excuses to avoid sex, becomes a master at going to bed early, staying up late, or suddenly being too tired or too stressed. The deception she participated in has now become her prison. What began as pretending has turned into genuine aversion, and eventually, her body makes the final decision her mind couldn't. Mysterious headaches, sudden stomach pains, an exhaustion that appears the moment you reach for her. These aren't fake. They're real physical responses created by years of unwanted experiences. Her body is saying what her words never could: I don't want this. And when the body refuses, no amount of flowers, date nights, or effort can reignite what's already dead. And when the truth finally comes out, when she admits that all those years she wasn't enjoying what you thought she was, you feel betrayed. You believed you were a good lover because her reactions told you so. You trusted the feedback she gave you, only to discover it was all a performance. Suddenly you realize you've been repeating patterns that felt to her like endurance, not passion. You feel manipulated, made into a fool. She feels relieved to finally say it, but also guilty. Both of you, in the end, feel deceived. And here's the darkest part. She may have never truly felt real desire for you at all. What you mistook for lust in the beginning may have only been performance, a convincing act to secure the relationship. Women are trained from birth that their value lies in being desired, in being sexual, in pleasing men. So they learn to perform, to fake excitement, to simulate orgasms, to pretend. And sometimes they do it so well that even they convince themselves for a while. But real desire, authentic, raw, consuming passion, may have never existed between you. And now, after years of unmet expectations, broken trust, festering resentment, and sexual misalignment, it certainly doesn't exist. The performance has ended, and beneath it there's nothing. Just absence. Just silence. Just the weight of what's missing. And she has no interest in reviving it, because living without sex has become easier than enduring sex that feels like a burden. That's the brutal truth. She doesn't necessarily want another man. She doesn't even want freedom through divorce. She wants the life structure you provide. The house, the family unit, the financial stability, the social status of being married. She doesn't want you, but she doesn't want to lose the framework you give her either. And so she stays. Not as your lover, but as your roommate, your co-parent, your business partner in the logistics of life. Meanwhile, you're the one suffering. You're the one lying next to someone who feels more like a sister than a wife. You're technically married, but practically celibate. You're the one trying everything. Flowers, dinners, chores, thinking you can bring back what's been dead for years. But it's not about what you do now. It's about what's already been done. The disappointment stacked over years, the trust that was chipped away piece by piece, the resentment left to rot and grow, and the sexual deception that turned intimacy into something unbearable. You read the articles about rekindling passion, about date nights and communication, about trying new things. But she's not interested. She's made peace with her asexuality. It has become her comfort zone, her safe space where she doesn't have to perform, doesn't have to fake, doesn't have to endure. The absence of sex is now easier, more comfortable than the act itself ever was. And so you live in a marriage that exists on paper, but not in practice, in name, but not in essence. The tragic part is that most of this could have been avoided, with brutal honesty from the beginning. If she had been clear about her expectations, and you had been clear about your reality. If she had told you what she really liked sexually, and you had been open enough to listen without ego. If resentments had been addressed instead of stored. If trust had been built through acceptance instead of torn down by judgment. But that would have required a level of raw communication, courage, and authenticity that most couples never reach. So here you are, sharing a bed with a woman who doesn't want you, trying to understand how you got here. And the answer is through 1,000 small failures of honesty, 1,000,000 tiny performances instead of truth, an endless collection of unspoken resentments and unmet expectations. Desire didn't die suddenly. It bled out slowly over years until nothing was left but empty coexistence. And the saddest part? She's fine with it. You're the only one who still feels the pain of what's missing. In her eyes, you no longer represent passion or excitement or possibility. You represent disappointment, broken trust, resentment, and sexual incompatibility. You're not a man to her anymore. You're a symbol of everything that went wrong. Can desire be resurrected? Maybe, but only if she wants it. And the truth is, most of the time she doesn't. She has buried that part of herself, and she has no interest in digging it back up. This is the brutal truth about why your wife doesn't want you. It wasn't one big betrayal. It wasn't a single event. It was a death by 1,000 cuts, so subtle you never noticed them stacking up. And now all that remains is a hollow marriage, a partnership in everything except intimacy. You're the one suffering, the one longing for change. She, on the other hand, has found balance in this sexless existence. For her, it's not a problem, it's peace. For you, it's a prison.